a quick little add-on to the drum programming video that I did before. I played those notes in, and I just wanted to make a separate video to say you can draw all these things in. So I'm back at an empty track. I have my tempo, I have my click track, I have drums, I have sounds. But I don't want to play anything on a piano or MIDI controller. So I'm just going to go straight to the MIDI editor. And as I mentioned before, you can click on all these notes. And you can take your pencil tool and draw. And by doing that, and if you know where you're drawing, beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4, you can play those notes. If you draw, by clicking and dragging, you can draw out longer notes. That's useful when you're drawing chords, not as much as I explained before with drums. Drums have short attack sustains. You just need to draw in a 16th note at most, and at least something smaller than that. So what I am going to do, I'm going to expand on, well, you also don't have to use the pencil tool. If you're using the smart tool and you get your grabber or just actually hover over the cell or the beat you want to put a note in and double click, it will put one in there for you. What else? So sometimes that's what I'll do, and we'll leave it at that for the moment. So what I do know, that kick drum I want to have it on beat 1. Actually, let's put it on beat 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're gonna do a quick little like house vibe. We're gonna need to change our tempo though, and we don't want to do it like that. Make sure to return. I'll do 128 classic house. So now we have, all right, I'll do 2 measures. This gives me the opportunity to point out that when you draw notes in the MIDI editor, you see this velocity line. Velocity is how hard those notes are hit when you play the instrument, a MIDI controller. If you were to sit down at a piano or a guitar, you play certain notes quieter or louder than others. And you have the ability essentially, and there's different tonality characteristics that come out of notes when you play them harder or softer. You pluck a string, you're going to get a pluck sound. You pluck it softly, you'll get a soft pluck sound. Pianos have the same response. So with certain things, like a kick drum like this, first of all, I want to bring them up to full volume. You'll notice that the notes get darker too. So I can just come down here. So the lighter the note, the lower the velocity. That might come in handy sometime. But I want these kick drums to be right on, right in your face and super loud. All right. So I have these kick drums. I have a feeling I'm going to use that hi-hat for this classic kind of offbeat house hi-hat thing. I'll make that loud too, but not all the way. Okay. So now let's just start playing around with maybe a little more to the hi-hat there. I just want to have another real tempo supporter. Okay, and maybe what else could I add? kind of like that. I'm going to put it uh, on the second and fourth beat, kind of where the snare drum would go. So a couple other things, I can highlight these two, and if I click on option and then you see that plus sign, that is from the grabber, and that's when I'm clicking on option or taking it off, and that allows me to click, duplicate, and drag. Okay, so now we have a little different sound starting. Oh, well, this gives me the opportunity. Let's just leave that how it is. Simple. Now, I kind of like it for whatever reason. This is the urban beat template that was playing that back. This is the beauty of MIDI. Remember, if I don't have an instrument, I don't have any sound. This grayed out version, I still have all those notes. You know, this clip is trying to communicate, say, play me, but there's nothing to play. So until there's nothing to play through, until you have an instrument, you got nothing. But at the same time, all this is really telling us is that when these notes play, something's coming out of C1. Okay, the number 1, it's a C, 2 is a C octave higher, 3 is actually middle C. And then it knows that F sharp is being triggered at these times. And it knows, you know, etc., etc. It knows how hard they're being hit because of the velocity. It could care less what sound is coming out of expand. It does not care. So let's listen to it with Beneath the Waves, the preset. Okay, not so good. Let's put a guitar in there. So it's interesting. That's kind of cool, actually. It sounds like a do-do-dee-doo, do-do-dee-doo-doo. I could hear that in a movie. It doesn't care. So, but also, when you do go to drums, this was made on Urban Beat, remember? Certain things are going to stay the same. Remember I mentioned that C1 is almost always a kick drum. Doesn't matter what preset it is. And doesn't even matter what manufacturer. This is kind of just universals. This F sharp is a closed hi-hat. These things change a lot with different percussion. Actually, let's put that in there. Nah. Maybe right there. Okay. It doesn't matter. Doesn't care. And if I change drum presets to the pop kit, most of this will sound most of this will make sense. The kick and the hi-hat, the percussive elements, not sure. Let's see what it sounds like. It sounds pretty horrible. This ride cymbal, that was kind of that electronic sound that I was using as a snare drum. Let's go to old school. What does that sound like with old school? Okay, it's a little splash cymbal. Let's go to electro, since this is kind of... Now that's interesting because it has that hi-hat where I was going to put a snare drum, or I was using it as a snare drum, but it's not taking up that snare drum space. So I'm actually going to highlight was what I was using. That was that weird whistle, right? Now it's kind of a hi-hat and it's a cool layer. I'm just going to duplicate that and start going up and down until I find the snare. I don't like any of them. I'll just use that for now. All right, so here we go. I want to hear that snare drum a little more forcefully. I'm going to bring up the velocities on the snare. Okay, close this. We're now in the edit window again. Notice that when the drums are playing, you're not hearing the click track so much. That's because they're on beat. Let's just do something weird. And in slip mode, I'll zoom in so you see what I'm doing. I'm going to move this over half, like a little more than half a 16th note. I want to listen to the click track in these drums and see if we can notice it now. Because it's not on, I could hear it. Hardly any click track. Pretty obvious. All right. Once you have some drums, you can turn your click track off. Okay, but that's more relevant to playing. This was a drawing exercise. And if you draw, you pretty much know it's going to go on the beat, especially if you're in grid mode. If you're in slip mode, you know, it's going to go on the beat, but trying to move it around will confuse things. There you go. I'm going to do another quick follow-up on this beat, or not this beat, for a couple of semi-advanced drawing techniques. Let's call them intermediate. All right, there you have it.